The alien passenger's eyes widen in shock as Dylan Turner removes the last of his clothing, revealing what's between his legs. The human engineer fights the urge to cover himself, acutely aware of the stark differences between his anatomy and that of the Klingons surrounding him. Sweat beads on Dylan's forehead as the temperature in the cosmic Voyager continues to rise. The ship's AI had given them no choice: strip or face heat stroke. Now, as he stands naked in the crowded passenger bay, Dylan realizes this malfunction may be more than just an inconvenience. Captain Krolath's voice booms over the ship's comm system. All passengers report to the main hold immediately. This is not a drill. Dylan moves with the crowd, his bare feet slapping against the metal floor. He feels the curious stares of the alien passengers, their own bodies as unfamiliar to him as his is to them. A female Klingon catches his eye, her gaze fixed on his exposed genitalia. He recognizes her as Sarah, a scientist he'd briefly spoken with before entering cryosleep. The main hold is a sea of bare skin and alien flesh. Captain Krolath, a stern Klingon male, stands at the front, his expression grim. The cosmic Voyager has experienced a critical failure in its environmental control systems, he announces. We are stranded in a remote sector, far from any Federation outpost. A murmur of concern ripples through the crowd. Dylan feels a bead of sweat roll down his back. Our life support systems are failing, Krolath continues. Without immediate repairs, we face certain death. The captain's eyes scan the crowd, landing on Dylan. You, human. You're an engineer, correct? Dylan nods, suddenly aware of every eye in the room turning to him. You will lead a team to repair the environmental controls, Krolath orders. The survival of everyone aboard now rests in your hands. Dylan swallows hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He glances at Sarah, noting the mix of hope and doubt in her eyes. Other Klingon crew members regard him with open suspicion. As Dylan begins to organize the repair effort, he becomes acutely aware of the cultural and physiological gulf between himself and the alien crew. The lack of clothing only heightens the tension, every difference on display. Sarah approaches him, her eyes still wide with fascination. I've never worked closely with a human before, she says, her gaze darting between his face and his lower body. Dylan nods, trying to maintain professionalism despite their mutual nakedness. We'll need to work together if we're going to survive this, he replies, acutely aware of the suspicious glares from other Klingon crew members. As he outlines the repair plan, Dylan realizes that the success of the mission and the lives of everyone aboard now depends on his ability to bridge the gap between human and Klingon. With the ship's temperature rising and time running out, he must prove that humanity's ingenuity and adaptability are more than a match for this crisis. The cosmic Voyager drifts silently through the void, its hull scorching in the heat of a nearby star. Inside, a naked human engineer prepares to face the greatest challenge of his life, armed only with his wits, his skills, and the shocking anatomical differences that may prove to be humanity's greatest asset. Dylan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the task ahead. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him as heavily as the oppressive heat that filled the ship. He turned to Sarah, her alien features a mix of curiosity and concern. Let's get to work, he said, his voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. We need to form a repair team. As they moved through the crowded hold, Dylan quickly assessed the skills of those around him. He selected 2 additional crew members, Talar, a Vulcan with a reputation for precision, and Thran, an Andorian known for his adaptability. Follow me, Dylan instructed, leading the small team towards the engineering bay. The ship's corridors, usually bustling with activity, were now eerily quiet. The only sound was the soft padding of bare feet on metal and the occasional hiss of overworked systems. As they progressed, the heat intensified. Dylan noticed his alien companions struggling more with each step. Sweat poured from their bodies, their breathing labored. Yet Dylan, while uncomfortable, found he could still function effectively. His human physiology, evolved to handle a wider range of temperatures, was proving to be an unexpected advantage. They reached the engineering bay, and Dylan's heart sank. The damage was far worse than he had anticipated. Coolant leaked from ruptured lines, creating puddles on the floor that sizzled and evaporated in the extreme heat. Several critical components were visibly corroded, their casings warped and discolored. "This is bad," Thran muttered, his antennae drooping. Dylan nodded grimly. "We need to completely overhaul the system. Talar, start diagnosing the extent of the coolant contamination. Thran, I need you to identify any salvageable components. Sarah, you're with me. We're going to devise a way to reroute power from non-essential systems." As they worked, Dylan's mind raced through potential solutions. He glanced at a pile of discarded equipment in the corner, an idea forming. "Sarah, help me with this," he said, moving towards the heap. Together, they began assembling a makeshift cooling unit using spare parts and repurposed materials. Sarah watched Dylan work, her eyes wide with fascination. "I've never seen anyone think so creatively," she said, her voice a mix of admiration and surprise. Dylan managed a small smile despite the dire circumstances. Humans have a knack for improvisation. It served us well in space. As they worked in close proximity, Dylan became acutely aware of Sarah's presence. Her alien physiology, so different from his own, was nonetheless alluring. He pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. Hours passed as they labored to repair the environmental systems. Progress was slow but steady. Dylan's unorthodox methods raised eyebrows among his alien teammates, but they couldn't argue with the results. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the engineering bay, followed by a shower of sparks. Talar, who had been working on a power coupling, was thrown backwards. Dylan rushed to her side, quickly assessing the damage. The Vulcan was unconscious, a nasty burn on her arm. "Thran, get her to medical!" Dylan shouted, helping the Andorian lift Talar. As they carried her out, Dylan surveyed the damage. The power surge had undone hours of their work. Before he could formulate a new plan, the ship's comm system crackled to life. Captain Krolath's voice filled the air, tension evident in his tone. "Turner, report to the bridge immediately. There's a situation." Dylan exchanged a worried glance with Sarah. "Keep working," he instructed. "I'll be back as soon as I can." As he made his way to the bridge, Dylan could feel the rising tension among the crew. Whispers followed him, some curious, others hostile. He entered the bridge to find Captain Krolath in heated discussion with a group of Klingon crew members, led by a particularly imposing warrior. "Ah, the human arrives," the warrior sneered, his eyes raking over Dylan's exposed form. "Tell us, why should we trust our lives to this fragile creature?" Captain Krolath held up a hand. "Enough, Corg. Turner, we have a problem. The navigation systems are offline. We're drifting off course, heading into uncharted space." Dylan's mind raced, calculating the new variables. They needed to fix the environmental controls to survive, but without navigation, they could be heading towards even greater danger. "Captain," he began, weighing his words carefully, "we're close to restoring the environmental systems, but it will take time. The navigation issue—" Corg interrupted, his voice a low growl. "We don't have time for your human hesitation. Klingons would have solved this problem already. I say we take control of the repairs." The tension in the room was palpable. Dylan could feel the weight of every eye upon him, judging, questioning. He knew his next words could determine not only his fate, but that of the entire ship. Dylan took a deep breath, his mind racing through the various challenges they faced. The environmental controls, the navigation issue, and now Korg's open hostility. Each problem demanded immediate attention, but he knew he had to prioritize. "Captain," Dylan said, meeting Krolath's stern gaze, "the environmental controls must come first. Without them, we won't survive long enough to worry about navigation." Korg snarled, taking a menacing step forward. "You dare!" "He's right," Captain Krolath interrupted, raising a hand to silence the warrior. "We need air to breathe before we can chart a course. Turner, return to engineering and complete those repairs. Korg, you will assist him." Dylan nodded, acutely aware of Korg's burning glare as they left the bridge. The corridors seemed even hotter now, the metal walls radiating heat. As they entered the engineering bay, Sarah looked up, her eyes widening at the sight of Korg. "What's the situation?" Dylan asked, moving quickly to her side. Sarah wiped sweat from her brow. We've made progress, but there's still much to do. The coolant system is barely functioning. Dylan nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. Corg, we need to reroute power from non-essential systems. Can you handle that? The Klingon warrior grunted in affirmative, moving to a nearby console. Dylan turned back to Sarah, their bodies close in the cramped space. Let's focus on the coolant system. If we can get that operational, we might just have a chance. They worked tirelessly, their bodies glistening with sweat in the oppressive heat. Dylan pushed himself to the limit, his human physiology allowing him to endure where others faltered. Sarah matched his pace, her perseverance evident in every precise movement. Hours passed in a blur of repairs and adjustments. Finally, with a series of beeps and whirs, the environmental control system sprang to life. Cool air began to circulate, bringing immediate relief to the sweltering crew. "We did it," Sarah breathed, a smile breaking across her face. Before Dylan could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Krolath's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident in his tone. "All hands, we have multiple hull breaches imminent. Evacuate affected areas immediately." Dylan's heart raced. They'd solved one problem only to face another, potentially more deadly crisis. The temperature fluctuations, he realized aloud. They've weakened the hull integrity. Sarah's eyes widened in understanding. "What can we do?" Dylan's mind raced through possibilities. Suddenly he remembered something he'd seen in the cargo manifest. "The nanomaterial," he said. "It's experimental, but it might be our only chance to reinforce the hull." "I'll go with you," Sarah volunteered immediately. They raced towards the cargo bay, the ship's alarms growing more insistent with each passing moment. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with Corg and a group of his supporters. "Where are you going, human?" Corg demanded, blocking their path. "We don't have time for this," Dylan said, frustration evident in his voice. "The hull is failing. We need to get to the cargo bay now." Corg's eyes narrowed. "More human tricks? You'll destroy us all with your recklessness." The standoff stretched for precious seconds until Captain Krolath's voice boomed from behind them. "Stand aside, Corg. That's an order." Reluctantly, Corg and his followers moved, allowing Dylan and Sarah to pass. They sprinted the rest of the way to the cargo bay, acutely aware of every second ticking by. Inside, they found chaos. The extreme heat had damaged many of the storage containers, including those holding the nanomaterial. Carefully, they began extracting what they could salvage. "We have to be careful," Dylan warned. "This stuff is volatile. One wrong move, and we could make things worse." Sarah nodded, her movements precise as they worked to secure the usable material. Their bodies pressed close in the confined space, the physical attraction between them impossible to ignore despite the dire circumstances. With the nanomaterial secured, they raced to the areas of the ship most at risk. Dylan's quick thinking and Sarah's steady hands allowed them to apply the substance to the weakening sections of the hull. As they worked, the ship groaned and shuddered around them. Sudden decompression in a nearby section caught them off guard. Acting on instinct, Dylan threw himself in front of Sarah, shielding her from the rush of escaping air. Sarah reacted with lightning speed, her Klingon strength allowing her to grab Dylan and secure them both to a nearby bulkhead. For a heart-stopping moment, they clung to each other, the vacuum of space mere inches away. Then slowly the nanomaterial began to take effect. The breach sealed, the hull stabilizing under their watchful eyes. As the immediate danger passed, Dylan and Sarah found themselves still locked in a tight embrace, their naked bodies pressed together in the aftermath of their near-death experience. Their eyes met, the intensity of the moment bringing their mutual attraction to the forefront. But before either could speak, Captain Krolath's voice came over the intercom, ordering all crew to report to the main hold. As they made their way back, exchanging meaningful glances, Dylan knew that something had fundamentally changed between them. But he also knew that their challenges were nowhere near the end. The cosmic Voyager had been saved from immediate destruction, but now they faced a journey into uncharted space with limited resources and a crew still divided. In the main hold, surrounded by the still unclothed crew, Dylan listened as Captain Krolath commended their efforts. But the captain's praise was tempered by the gravity of their new situation, lost in an unknown region of space with systems still in need of repair. As all eyes turned to him, Dylan felt the weight of expectation settle on his shoulders once more. With Sarah standing supportively at his side, he began to formulate a plan for their uncertain future among the stars. Stars. The challenge ahead was daunting, but Dylan knew they had no choice but to face it head-on. "We need to address our navigation crisis," Dylan said, his voice cutting through the murmur of the assembled crew. "Without a way to determine our location, we're flying blind in uncharted space." Captain Krolath nodded gravely. "What do you propose, Turner?" Dylan took a deep breath, acutely aware of the naked bodies surrounding him, a constant reminder of their vulnerability. "I believe we can modify our existing sensors to detect subtle variations in background radiation. With enough data, we might be able to create a rudimentary star map and pinpoint our location." A ripple of interest passed through the crowd. Krolath's eyes narrowed as he considered the idea. "It's ambitious, but we have limited resources. Can it be done?" "I believe so," Dylan replied, his confidence growing. "We'll need to salvage what we can from the cargo bay and set up a workshop. With some creative engineering, we should be able to construct a new sensor array." Krolath nodded his approval. "Make it happen, Turner. The fate of this ship and its crew rests on your success." As the meeting dispersed, Dylan felt a hand on his arm. He turned to find Sarah beside him, her eyes shining with purpose. "I want to help," she said. "My knowledge of xenobiology might be useful in identifying potential biosignatures. We could use that data to locate nearby habitable systems." Dylan smiled, grateful for her support. "That's brilliant, Sarah. Let's get to work." They made their way to the cargo bay, salvaging every piece of equipment they could find. Dylan's mind raced with possibilities as they began to construct their makeshift workshop. Sarah worked alongside him, her presence both comforting and distracting. As they pieced together the new sensor array, their bodies often brushed against each other in the confined space. Dylan found himself hyper-aware of every touch, every glance they shared. The attraction between them, simmering since their first meeting, seemed to intensify with each passing moment. Days blurred together as they worked tirelessly on the sensor modifications. Progress was slow but steady, each small victory bringing them closer to their goal. However, as they delved deeper into the mysteries of their surroundings, they uncovered a troubling complication. "Dylan, look at this," Sarah called out, gesturing to a readout on their cobbled-together display. "These energy signatures, they're not what we expected." Dylan leaned in close, his brow furrowing as he studied the data. "Pockets of intense radiation," he muttered, "scattered throughout this region of space. This complicates things." Sarah nodded, her expression grim. "If we're not careful, these radiation pockets could damage our systems or harm the crew. We need to find a way to navigate around them." Before Dylan could respond, Talar approached them, her Vulcan features set in a mask of concern. "Turner, we have another problem. Our power reserves are critically low. Without a way to recharge, we face total system failure within days." Dylan ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of their situation pressing down on him. "We need to split our focus," he said after a moment. "Navigation is crucial, but we can't ignore our power needs. Talar, work with Thran to see if we can optimize our energy consumption. Sarah and I will continue refining the sensor array." As Talar left to find Thran, Corg's imposing figure appeared at the entrance to their makeshift workshop. The Klingon's eyes burned with barely suppressed hostility as he surveyed their work. "Still playing with your human toys, Turner?" Corg sneered. "While you waste time, our chances of survival dwindle." Dylan stood his ground, meeting Corg's gaze. "We're doing everything we can to save this ship and its crew. If you have a better idea, I'm all ears." Corg growled low in his throat but said nothing more before stalking away. As he left, Dylan couldn't shake the feeling that the Klingon was up to something. Returning to their work, Dylan and Sarah made steady progress on the sensor modifications. As they fine-tuned the array, Thran burst into the workshop, his antennae twitching with excitement. "I may have a solution to our power problem," the Andorian announced. "The radiation pockets we've detected. What if we could harness that energy?" Dylan's eyes widened as he considered the possibility. "It's risky," he said, "but it might be our best option. We'd need to construct some kind of specialized energy collector." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with ideas. We could modify the hull plating to act as a conductor. It would require precise navigation, but if we can harvest enough energy from the radiation pockets, we might be able to recharge our systems. As they began to formulate a plan for the energy collector, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Krolath's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident in his tone. All hands, report to the main hold immediately. We have a situation. Dylan and Sarah exchanged worried glances before hurrying to join the rest of the crew. As they entered the main hold, they were met with a scene of chaos. Corg and a group of his followers stood at the center of the room, brandishing weapons they had somehow acquired. This ends now, Corg roared, his weapon trained on Captain Krolath. We will no longer follow the misguided leadership that has brought us to this point. It's time for true Klingon strength to guide us to salvation. The tension in the room was palpable as crew members chose sides, some backing away from Korg's group while others moved to join them. Dylan's mind raced, searching for a way to defuse the situation before it spiraled out of control. Suddenly, his modified sensors began to emit a high-pitched whine. Dylan quickly checked the readout, his eyes widening in alarm. "Everyone, listen," he shouted, cutting through the din of the confrontation. "We have a massive radiation surge approaching the ship. If we don't act now, we're all dead." The urgency in Dylan's voice gave everyone pause. Even Korg lowered his weapon slightly, uncertainty flashing across his face. "What do we do?" Captain Krolath demanded, seizing the moment to reassert control. Dylan's mind raced through their options. "We need to divert all available power to the shields. Thran, Talar, get to engineering and reinforce the hull integrity. Sarah, come with me. We need to fine-tune the sensors to predict the surge's path." As the crew sprang into action, the ship began to shudder under the first waves of the approaching radiation storm. Korg and his followers, faced with the immediate threat to their survival, abandoned their coup attempt and joined the efforts to save the cosmic Voyager. Dylan and Sarah worked frantically at their sensor array, using the data to guide the ship through the treacherous radiation field. Every few seconds, Dylan relayed course corrections to the bridge, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The radiation battered the ship, causing systems to fluctuate wildly. In engineering, Thrawn and Talar fought to keep the power grid stable, their bodies glistening with sweat as they worked in perfect sync. For what felt like hours, the cosmic Voyager weathered the storm. Finally, as the last waves of radiation passed, an eerie calm settled over the ship. Dylan slumped against the console, exhausted but relieved. "We did it," Sarah breathed, her eyes shining with a mixture of adrenaline and admiration. Before Dylan could respond, his modified sensors began to beep insistently. He straightened up, studying the readout with growing excitement. "Sarah, look at this," he said, his voice hushed. "The sensors are picking up something. An object, not far from our position. It could be a derelict ship, or maybe even a space station." Sarah leaned in close, her body pressing against his as she examined the data. "It could be our salvation," she whispered, her breath warm against his cheek. Their eyes met, the shared experience of facing mortality once again bringing them closer. Without thinking, Dylan leaned in, their lips meeting in a kiss that was both tender and urgent. For a moment, the challenges they faced faded away, leaving only the connection between them. As they parted, reality came rushing back. The discovery of the unknown object presented both an opportunity and a potential new threat. They needed to decide quickly whether to investigate or continue their efforts to navigate out of this dangerous region of space. Dylan took a deep breath, his mind already formulating a plan. Whatever they decided, he knew that the choice would have far-reaching consequences for the cosmic Voyager and its crew. With Sarah by his side, he prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead in the vast, uncharted expanse of space. Space. As Dylan and Sarah prepared to report their findings to Captain Krolath, the ship's engines hummed to life, propelling them towards the mysterious object. The bridge buzzed with anticipation as the cosmic Voyager approached. Through the view screen, a massive structure materialized against the backdrop of stars. An ancient alien space station, its design unlike anything they had encountered before. Captain Krolath's voice cut through the awed silence. "Turner, Sarah, Thrawn, prepare for an away mission. We need to investigate this station and determine if it can help our situation. Minutes later, Dylan found himself in the shuttle bay, double-checking his equipment. Sarah stood beside him, her eyes glinting with excitement and apprehension. Thran joined them, his antenna twitching as he calibrated a handheld scanner. As the shuttle detached from the cosmic Voyager, Dylan's stomach tightened. The station loomed before them, its surface marred by the scars of time and the harsh realities of space. As they drew closer, Dylan noticed the airlock systems were offline. "We can't dock," Thran reported, his fingers dancing over the controls. Dylan's mind raced. "The emergency sealant foam," he said suddenly. "We can use it to create a temporary airlock." Sarah nodded, already moving to retrieve the foam canisters. Working together, they managed to create a crude but effective seal between the shuttle and the station's entry point. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, they stepped into the alien structure. The interior was a maze of dimly lit corridors and chambers. Some systems flickered with residual power, while others lay dormant. As they moved deeper into the station, Dylan's modified tricorder picked up energy readings from a central location. "This way," he said, leading them down a winding passage. They emerged into a vast chamber that took their breath away. Alien technology, both familiar and utterly foreign, filled the space. At its center stood a towering crystalline structure, pulsing with an otherworldly light. "Incredible," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. "This could be exactly what we need." Dylan approached the crystal, his mind already working on ways to interface with it. "If we can harness this energy, we might be able to fully recharge the cosmic Voyager." As Dylan and Sarah examined the crystal, Thran's voice called out from across the chamber. "I've found something. A database. It appears to contain star charts of this region." "That could solve our navigation problems," Dylan said. "Thran, see what you can decipher. Sarah and I will work on the power source." As Thrawn set to work, Dylan and Sarah focused on the crystal. Its energy patterns were complex, unlike anything in Federation databases. They worked in tandem, their bodies close in the dim light of the alien technology. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. The crystal's pulsing intensified, and panels slid open in the chamber walls. Robotic figures emerged, their movements fluid and predatory. "Security system!" Dylan shouted, pulling Sarah behind a console as energy blasts scorched the air around them. The robots advanced, cutting off their escape route. Dylan's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes fell on the crystal, still pulsing with energy. "Sarah, cover me!" he called, darting towards the central structure. Sarah moved with lightning speed, using her enhanced strength to hurl debris at the approaching robots. Dylan reached the crystal, his hands flying over its surface, searching for a way to activate it. A surge of energy erupted from the crystal, washing over the chamber. The robots stumbled, their systems disrupted by the pulse. But the victory was short-lived as the station began to shake violently. "Dylan!" Sarah cried out as the gravity shifted unpredictably. She launched herself towards him, wrapping her arms around his body as they were tossed about the chamber. For a moment, despite the chaos around them, Dylan was acutely aware of Sarah's closeness. Their eyes met, a lifetime of unspoken feelings passing between them in an instant. Without thinking, they came together in a fierce embrace, their lips meeting with an urgency born of fear and long-suppressed desire. The moment was shattered by another violent tremor. The crystal's energy output was increasing exponentially, threatening to tear the station apart. "We have to stabilize it!" Dylan shouted over the growing din. Thran's voice crackled over their communicators. "I've bypassed the security systems. I'm on my way to you with data from the alien database. It might help control the power source." As Thran rejoined them, alarms blared throughout the station. The situation was rapidly deteriorating. Dylan's heart raced as he realized the magnitude of the danger they faced. If the crystal exploded, it would destroy not only the station, but the cosmic Voyager as well. "We need to implement a stabilization protocol," Dylan said, his fingers flying over the alien controls. "Thran, what did you find in the database?" Before Thran could answer, a familiar and unwelcome voice boomed through the chamber. "Step away from the controls, Turner." Dylan turned to see Corg standing at the entrance, flanked by his followers. The Klingon's eyes gleamed with triumph and terrifying rage. "The cosmic Voyager is under new management," Corg growled, "and that power source belongs to us now." Dylan's mind whirled, assessing their options. The crystal's energy continued to build, the station groaning under the strain. He knew he had only moments to make a decision that would determine not only their fate, but that of the entire crew. As Corg advanced, weapon raised, Dylan's hand hovered over the alien controls. Time seemed to slow as he weighed the consequences of his next action. The fate of two crews, an alien station of unimaginable power, and the fragile beginning of something profound between him and Sarah all hung in the balance. With a deep breath, Dylan prepared to make his move, knowing that whatever he chose would irrevocably alter the course of their journey through the uncharted depths of space. Space. Dylan's mind raced, weighing the consequences of his next action. With a subtle nod to Sarah and Thrawn, he made his decision. "All right, Corg," Dylan said, raising his hand slowly. "I'll show you how it works." Corg's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but he gestured for Dylan to proceed. As the Klingon and his followers entered the chamber, Dylan moved towards the crystal structure, his fingers dancing across the alien controls. "This power source is unlike anything we've encountered," Dylan explained, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "It responds to specific energy patterns like this." He initiated a sequence, causing the crystal to pulse with increasing intensity. Corg leaned in, fascination overriding his caution. At that moment, Dylan triggered a controlled energy surge. A blinding flash filled the chamber, accompanied by a disorienting wave of force. Corg and his followers staggered, momentarily stunned. Sarah seized the opportunity, launching herself at Corg with Klingon-enhanced speed and strength. In one fluid motion, she disarmed him, sending his weapon skittering across the floor. Simultaneously, Thrawn's fingers flew over a nearby control panel. The chamber entrance sealed shut with a resounding thud, cutting off Corg's reinforcements. "What treachery is this?" Corg roared, struggling against Sarah's iron grip. Dylan stepped forward, his expression grim. "Listen carefully, Corg. This isn't about power or control anymore. That crystal is highly unstable. If we don't work together to stabilize it, it'll destroy not just this station, but the cosmic Voyager as well." Corg's eyes darted between Dylan, Sarah, and the pulsing crystal. The chamber shuddered ominously, as if to emphasize Dylan's words. After a tense moment, the fight seemed to drain from the Klingon's body. "What must we do?" Corg asked, his voice gruff but no longer hostile. With Corg's reluctant cooperation secured, the team sprang into action. Dylan and Sarah focused on the crystal structure, their movements in perfect sync as they manipulated the alien controls. Thrawn and Corg worked to reinforce the station's structural integrity, their former animosity set aside in the face of mutual destruction. As they worked, Dylan's modified tricorder began emitting a series of urgent beeps. He checked the readout, his face paling. "We've got another problem," he announced. "There's a massive solar flare headed our way from a nearby star. If it hits while the crystal's unstable..." Sarah finished his thought. "It could trigger a cascade reaction. We'd be vaporized instantly." Dylan's mind raced, formulating a plan. "We might be able to use the crystal's energy to create a protective field around both the station and the cosmic Voyager, but it'll require precise timing and coordination." He quickly relayed the plan to Captain Krolath via communicator. The captain, having regained control of the ship from Korg's remaining followers, agreed to the risky strategy. As the solar flare approached, Dylan and Sarah worked feverishly to modulate the crystal's output, their bodies pressed close in the confined space, hands brushing against each other as they manipulated the controls. Despite the dire circumstances, Dylan found himself acutely aware of Sarah's presence, her scent, the warmth of her skin. The station rumbled as the leading edge of the solar flare struck. Systems fluctuated wildly, alarms blaring throughout the chamber. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed their efforts might be in vain. Acting on pure instinct, Dylan made a final adjustment to the crystal's resonance frequency. The effect was immediate and startling. The protective field stabilized, its energy signature synchronizing with that of the solar flare. What happened next defied their expectations. Instead of being overwhelmed, the crystal began to absorb the solar flare's energy. The station's power reserves surged far beyond anything they had anticipated. As the danger passed, an eerie calm settled over the chamber. Dylan and Sarah exchanged looks of disbelief and relief, their hands still intertwined on the control panel. Thran's antennae twitched excitedly as he examined the readouts. "Remarkable," the Andorian breathed. "We now have access to an unprecedented amount of energy. This could revolutionize our journey home." But even as hope bloomed, a new complication arose. The alien station, now fully powered, began to show signs of reactivation. Ancient computer systems flickered to life, holographic displays materializing throughout the chamber. Dylan watched in awe as glimpses of a long-lost civilization played out before them. The ethical implications hit him like a physical blow. They had the power to save themselves, to enhance the cosmic voyager beyond their wildest dreams. But at what cost? This station was a priceless xeno-archaeological find, a window into an ancient culture that could reshape their understanding of the universe. As the team prepared to return to the cosmic voyager, the weight of the decision pressed heavily on Dylan. He caught Sarah's eye, seeing his own conflict mirrored in her gaze. Their shared ordeal had deepened their connection, but it had also thrust upon them a responsibility that extended far beyond their personal feelings. With the station humming with newfound energy and the cosmic voyager waiting just beyond, Dylan knew that the choice they made would have far-reaching consequences. As he took a final look at the reawakening alien technology, he steeled himself for the difficult discussions that lay ahead. Taking a deep breath, he turned to his team. "Let's get back to the cosmic voyager," Dylan said. "We've got a lot to discuss with Captain Krolath." The journey back to the ship was tense, with Corg and his followers under close watch. As they boarded, the anticipation from the crew was palpable. Eyes wide with hope, they watched Dylan and Sarah step onto the bridge, carrying the promise of salvation. Captain Krolath listened intently as Dylan and Sarah recounted their discovery and the subsequent events. His brow furrowed as they described the alien station's reactivation and the ethical quandary they now faced. "This is indeed a complex situation," Krolath said, his voice grave. "We must balance our immediate needs with the potential scientific value of this discovery." After hours of deliberation, a compromise was reached. They would use a portion of the harvested energy to recharge the cosmic voyager's systems, leaving the alien station largely intact for future study. As the energy transfer began, the ship came alive around them. Environmental controls stabilized, and crew members hurried to don their long-missed clothing. Dylan couldn't help but notice the relief on Sarah's face as she slipped into her uniform, a shared glance between them acknowledging the unique intimacy of their recent experiences. In engineering, Dylan worked feverishly alongside the ship's team, monitoring the energy influx. Suddenly, alarms blared across the console. "The propulsion systems are off the charts," Dylan exclaimed, his fingers flying over the controls. "This energy isn't just recharging our systems, it's enhancing them." Captain Krolath leaned in, his eyes widening at the readouts. "Can you stabilize it?" Dylan shook his head. "I'm not sure we should. These enhancements could be the key to getting us home." As days passed, the true extent of the changes became clear. The cosmic voyager was transforming, becoming a hybrid of Federation and ancient alien technology. Dylan spent sleepless nights studying the process, marveling at the way the ship seemed to reshape itself at a molecular level. Strange occurrences began to ripple through the crew. Lieutenant Reeves reported seeing a ghostly figure in the mess hall, while Ensign Chen swore she'd dreamed of towering crystal cities, unlike anything in Federation records. Sarah sought out Dylan in the early hours of the ship's artificial morning, her eyes bright with excitement and lack of sleep. "I think I know what's happening," she said, pulling up a holographic display. "The energy isn't just power, it's carrying the imprint of an entire civilization's collective consciousness." Before Dylan could respond, the ship's computer sparked to life. A holographic interface unlike anything they'd seen before materialized before them, its form shifting and swirling with alien symbols. "Greetings, travelers," the AI said, its voice a strange amalgamation of the ship's familiar tones and something altogether foreign. "I am here to guide you." Captain Krolath was summoned to the bridge, where the AI revealed a massive gravitational anomaly blocking their path home. It offered to help navigate the treacherous passage, but warned of great danger ahead. "We need a navigator who understands both our technology and this new alien influence," Krolath said, his gaze settling on Dylan. Dylan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He turned to Sarah, seeing his own mix of fear and commitment reflected in her eyes. "I'll do it," Dylan said, "but I need Sarah with me. Her scientific expertise could be the difference between success and disaster." As the rest of the crew prepared for the journey, Dylan and Sarah took their positions at the helm. The ship's systems pulsed around them, tendrils of energy snaking across the consoles. "Are you ready?" Dylan asked, his hand hovering over the interface. Sarah nodded, reaching out to place her hand beside his. "Together," she said. As their fingers touched the console, the world around them shifted. Dylan felt his consciousness expand, merging with the ship's systems, and Sarah's mind in a dizzying fusion of human, alien, and artificial intelligence. The cosmic Voyager approached the edge of the anomaly, its hull glowing with ethereal light. Through their shared perception, Dylan and Sarah could see the swirling vortex of gravitational forces ahead, a maelstrom of cosmic energy that threatened to tear them apart. With a shared thought, they guided the ship forward. The anomaly loomed before them, a maw of swirling energy ready to swallow them whole. As they crossed the threshold, reality itself seemed to bend and warp around the cosmic Voyager. Dylan and Sarah clung to their connection, their merged consciousness the only steady point in a sea of chaos. Through the tempest of the anomaly, they caught glimpses of impossible sights, shattered planets reformed in an instant, stars born and dying in the blink of an eye. The ship shuddered and groaned under the strain, but held together, its enhanced systems adapting to the extreme conditions. Dylan and Sarah worked in perfect harmony, their thoughts and actions synchronized as they navigated the treacherous passage. As they plunged deeper into the heart of the anomaly, the boundary between individual consciousness began to blur. Dylan found himself lost in a whirlwind of memories, some his own, some Sarah's, and others belonging to the ancient alien civilization whose essence now flowed through the ship. Through it all, one thought remained crystal clear. They had to get the crew home, no matter the consequences. With this shared purpose driving them, Dylan and Sarah pushed the cosmic Voyager to its limits, racing through the anomaly towards an uncertain future. Destiny. As they plunged deeper into the heart of the anomaly, Dylan and Sarah's consciousness expanded beyond the confines of their physical bodies, merging with the ship's hybrid systems. The cosmic Voyager shuddered violently, its hull creaking under the immense gravitational forces. Through their shared perception, Dylan and Sarah could feel every strain and stress on the vessel as if it were their own body. "Gravitational shear increasing," the ship's AI announced, its voice a strange blend of familiar and alien tones. "Hull integrity at 87% and falling." Dylan's intuition, honed by years of piloting, merged seamlessly with Sarah's scientific expertise. Together, they guided the ship through the turbulent passage, making minute adjustments to their course with every passing second. Suddenly, a warning flashed across their shared mental landscape. "Massive energy surge detected," Sarah's thoughts echoed through their link. "Potential space-time distortion ahead." Without hesitation, Dylan made a decision. "Diverting power from non-essential systems," he communicated, his thoughts translating into action instantaneously. "Reinforcing structural integrity fields." The ship's energy grid shifted, power flowing away from less critical areas to strengthen the vessel's defenses against the increasing gravitational forces. As they delved deeper into the anomaly, time itself began to warp around them. On the bridge, Captain Krolath watched in awe as the chronometers spun wildly. What felt like hours to the merged consciousness of Dylan and Sarah passed in mere minutes for the rest of the crew. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, they detected fragments of other vessels trapped within the anomaly. Some appeared to be from different time periods, while others bore designs that defied known technological principles. "Look at that," Sarah's thoughts flickered with fascination. "That ship, it's using a propulsion system I've never seen before. It might be from an alternate reality." Dylan's focus remained on navigating the chaotic environment, but he shared Sarah's wonder at the impossible sights surrounding them. Their mental link allowed them to process the overwhelming influx of data at superhuman speeds. As they pushed further into the heart of the anomaly, Dylan began to notice a pattern in the gravitational waves. "Sarah, do you see it?" he projected. "There's a rhythm to the distortions." Sarah's scientific mind latched onto the observation, analyzing the data. "You're right," she replied. "If we can synchronize our course with these waves, we might be able to ride them through the worst of the turbulence." Working in perfect harmony, they adjusted the ship's trajectory, aligning it with the gravitational ebb and flow. The cosmic Voyager's journey smoothed out, the violent shaking subsiding to a more manageable level. Just as they thought they had found their way through the anomaly, the ship's sensors detected something unexpected. "Captain," the AI announced, "I'm reading a pocket of stable space directly ahead." Krolath leaned forward in his chair, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. "On screen," he ordered. The image that appeared left the bridge crew speechless. Within the swirling chaos of the anomaly, a small sphere of calm existed. At its center floated what appeared to be an ancient space station, its architecture unlike anything in Federation records. "It appears to be of the same origin as the energy crystal we encountered," Sarah observed through their link. Dylan's curiosity piqued. "Captain," he called out, his voice strained from the mental exertion of piloting the ship, "I recommend we investigate. This station might hold the key to understanding the anomaly and finding our way home." Krolath nodded, his decision made. "Agreed. Prepare an away team. Mr. Dylan, Miss Sarah, you'll lead the expedition. Your connection to the ship's systems may prove invaluable in interfacing with any alien technology we find." As the cosmic Voyager maneuvered into the stable pocket, Dylan and Sarah carefully disengaged from their deep link with the ship's systems. The sudden return to their individual bodies left them both dizzy and disoriented. Sarah stumbled as she stood from her station, Dylan quickly moving to steady her. Their eyes met, a moment of unspoken understanding passing between them. The intimacy of their shared consciousness lingered, creating a bond that went beyond words. "Are you ready for this?" Dylan asked softly, his hand still on her arm. Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with commitment and scientific curiosity. "Let's go make first contact with whoever built this place." As they made their way to the transporter room, joined by a small team of security and science personnel, Dylan couldn't shake the feeling that whatever they discovered on that ancient station would change the course of their journey forever. The anomaly's secrets awaited, and with it, perhaps, their path home. Home. The anomaly's secrets awaited, and with it, perhaps, their path to salvation. As Dylan and Sarah stepped onto the transporter pad, a blinding light engulfed the cosmic Voyager. The ship shuddered violently, and for a moment it felt as if reality itself was being torn apart. When the light faded, they found themselves still on the transporter pad, disoriented and confused. "Report!" Captain Krolath's voice crackled over the comm system, tinged with urgency. Dylan tapped his badge, struggling to find his voice. "Captain, we're still on board. What happened?" "Get to the bridge immediately," Krolath ordered. "We've emerged from the anomaly." As they rushed through the corridors, the damage was evident. Panels sparked, crew members stumbled about in confusion, and the ship's usually smooth hum had become a discordant rhythm of creaks and groans. On the bridge, the view screen showed unfamiliar stars against the inky blackness of space. Krolath turned to them, his face etched with concern. "Status report?" Before either could respond, the world began to spin. Dylan felt a sudden, overwhelming connection to the ship's systems, far more intense than before. Beside him, Sarah gasped, her eyes widening in shock. Their minds, still intertwined from their previous fusion with the ship's AI, were being pulled back into the hybrid system. "Medical team to the bridge." Krolath's voice seemed to come from a great distance as Dylan's consciousness expanded, merging once again with Sarah's and the ship's AI. In that moment of connection, they saw everything. The damage to the cosmic Voyager, the strange alterations to its systems, the residual energy from the anomaly coursing through its circuits. It was too much to process, too overwhelming for their human minds to contain. Then darkness. Days passed in a haze of disjointed dreams and fragmented memories. Dylan drifted in and out of consciousness, catching snippets of conversation from the medical staff. Words like neural overload and synaptic realignment floated through his mind, meaningless in his semi-conscious state. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself in the infirmary, Sarah in the bed next to his. Dr. Levine, the ship's chief medical officer, noticed his stirring and approached. "Welcome back, Mr. Dillon," she said, running a scanner over him. "You've been unconscious for 5 days." Dillon tried to speak, but his throat was dry and raw. Dr. Levine offered him water, which he gratefully accepted. As he sipped, he noticed something strange. He could sense Sarah's presence, not just physically, but mentally. It was as if a part of her consciousness lingered in his mind. "Sarah," he croaked, turning to look at her. As if on cue, her eyes fluttered open. Their gazes locked, and in that instant, a flood of thoughts and emotions passed between them. Without speaking, they understood each other perfectly. The mental link they had formed during their fusion with the ship's systems had persisted, even without direct connection. "Fascinating," Dr. Levine murmured, noticing the silent exchange. "It seems your experience has left some lasting effects." Over the next few hours, as they regained their strength, Dylan and Sarah were briefed on the ship's status. The cosmic Voyager had indeed emerged from the anomaly, but at a great cost. The Etherian energy had permanently altered the ship's systems, granting it new capabilities, but also presenting unforeseen challenges. "The hull now exhibits self-repairing properties," Chief Engineer Tarek explained during a briefing in the infirmary. "And our propulsion system, well, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. We can achieve brief bursts of faster-than-light travel without traditional warp technology." As Dylan and Sarah absorbed this information, they found themselves instinctively reaching out to each other through their mental link, sharing their awe and concern. Their recovery was interrupted by an announcement from Captain Crowlath. "Senior officers to the bridge. We've detected a habitable planet in a nearby solar system." With Dr. Levine's reluctant approval, Dylan and Sarah made their way to the bridge. As they entered, the view screen showed a blue-green world, swirling with clouds and teeming with life. "Initial scans show a pre-warp civilization," Lieutenant Reeves reported, "approximately equivalent to Earth's medieval period." Crowlath turned to his officers, his expression grave. "We need supplies and time for repairs. This planet might offer both, but we must proceed with caution. Any suggestions?" As the discussion began, Dylan and Sarah exchanged a glance. Through their link, they shared a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Little did they know that their decision to explore this world would lead them into a complex web of alien politics, ancient technology, and a race against time to prevent global catastrophe. The cosmic Voyager moved into orbit around the alien world, its crew unaware of the challenges that awaited them on the surface below. For Dylan and Sarah, their enhanced connection would soon be put to the ultimate test, as they found themselves at the center of a conflict that could determine the fate of an entire civilization. Civilization. As the cosmic Voyager settled into orbit, Dylan and Sarah felt a surge of anticipation coursing through their mental link. Captain Crowlath assembled an away team, with Dylan and Sarah at its core. Their unique connection to the ship's systems made them invaluable for this mission. As they prepared to beam down, Dylan felt Sarah's mix of excitement and apprehension mirroring his own. The transporter beam shimmered around them, and moments later, they materialized on the planet's surface. Lush vegetation surrounded them, the air heavy with unfamiliar scents. Dylan instinctively reached out to Sarah through their mental bond, sharing a moment of wonder at the alien world. Their mission began smoothly, with the team collecting samples and gathering data on the local flora and fauna. However, as they ventured deeper into the wilderness, they stumbled upon something unexpected, an ancient structure, its architecture unlike anything they had ever seen. "This can't be native to this world," Sarah whispered, her scientific curiosity piqued. "The design, it's reminiscent of the station we saw in the anomaly." Dylan nodded, feeling a strange resonance through their mental link. As they approached the structure, its surface began to glow with an eerie blue light. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled, and the air crackled with energy. "Everyone, back away!" Dylan shouted, but it was too late. A force field sprung up around the structure, separating Dylan and Sarah from the rest of the away team. Panic surged through the mental link, but Dylan pushed it aside, focusing on the immediate threat. The structure's defenses had activated, targeting them with beams of energy. Acting on instinct, Dylan reached out with his mind, Sarah joining him in perfect synchronization. To their astonishment, the alien technology responded to their mental commands. The hostile beams dissipated, and a protective barrier formed around them. Through their shared consciousness, they began to decipher the complex systems of the Etherian structure. "It's a database," Sarah realized, her thoughts flowing seamlessly into Dylan's mind. An entire repository of Etherian knowledge. As they delved deeper into the alien systems, they uncovered disturbing information. The planet's dominant species, the Zal Thori, were unknowingly being manipulated by a hidden faction. This group was using remnants of Etherian technology to escalate conflicts and steer the planet's development. Their exploration was interrupted by the sound of weapons fire outside the barrier. A group of Zal Thori soldiers, their armor adorned with intricate symbols, were attacking the structure. "We need to contact the ship," Dylan thought, and Sarah agreed. They focused their combined mental energy on boosting the structure's communication capabilities. Aboard the Cosmic Voyager, Captain Krolath paced the bridge, concern etched on his face. "Any word from the away team?" "Nothing, sir," Lieutenant Reeves replied. "The interference is too strong." Suddenly, the ship's systems surged with energy. "Captain," the AI announced, "I'm detecting a signal from the planet's surface." Dylan's voice, distorted but recognizable, filled the bridge. "Captain, we've discovered an Etherian structure. The planet's population is being manipulated by a faction using alien tech. We need to act fast." Krolath's mind raced, weighing the non-interference directive against the potential for global catastrophe. "Understood, Mr. Dylan. We'll do what we can from up here. Be careful down there." With the brief connections severed, Dylan and Sarah turned their attention to the planet's communication networks. Using the Etherian technology, they broadcast evidence of the manipulative faction's actions to the Zal Thori population. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Across the planet, Zal Thori citizens took to the streets, demanding answers from their leaders. The faction, their plans exposed, launched a desperate attack on the Etherian structure. The assault triggered a failsafe in the ancient systems. Alarms blared, and holographic displays showed the planet's tectonic plates beginning to destabilize. "We have to stop it," Sarah's thought echoed in Dylan's mind. They worked frantically, their mental link allowing them to process the alien data at incredible speeds. In orbit, the Cosmic Voyager's sensors detected the growing geological instability. Captain Krolath made his decision. "Mr. Tarek, divert all power to our new propulsion system. We're going to use it to stabilize the planet's core." As the ship engaged its enhanced capabilities, channeling energy into the planet below, Dylan and Sarah finally cracked the code of the failsafe. With a shared mental command, they deactivated the system. The immense strain of interfacing with the alien technology took its toll. Dylan felt Sarah's consciousness flicker, and his own vision began to darken. As they collapsed, their bodies intertwined amidst the glowing consoles. Their minds merged into a shared dreamscape filled with visions of Etherian history and knowledge. On the planet's surface, the Zal Thori watched in awe as the sky lit up with a brilliant aurora, evidence of the Cosmic Voyager's intervention. The conflict that had consumed their world ground to a halt as they grappled with the revelations about their leaders and the undeniable proof of advanced alien presence. Captain Krolath's voice cut through the awed silence on the bridge. "Sensors are detecting multiple Zal Thori craft approaching orbit. It seems our actions haven't gone unnoticed." As the away team raced to recover Dylan and Sarah from the Etherian structure, the Cosmic Voyager prepared to face the consequences of their intervention. The fate of the Zal Thori civilization hung in the balance, and the full impact of Dylan and Sarah's deep connection to the alien technology remained to be seen. In the dreamscape of their shared consciousness, Dylan and Sarah drifted through streams of ancient knowledge, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment. The true nature of their connection and its implications for their future was yet to be unveiled. In the dreamscape of their shared consciousness, Dylan and Sarah drifted through streams of ancient knowledge, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment. The true nature of their connection and its implications for their future was yet to be fully understood. Their minds intertwined, processing vast amounts of information at an unprecedented rate. Aboard the Cosmic Voyager, alarms blared as the ship's sensors detected multiple Zal Thori spacecraft approaching. Captain Krolath's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. "Initiate emergency retrieval protocols. We need Dylan and Sarah back on board now." Lieutenant Reeves' fingers flew over the control panel. "Sir, the away team reports interference with the transporter lock. They're unable to beam Dylan and Sarah directly to the ship." Krolath's expression hardened. "Deploy the portable transporter units. Get our people down there to extract them manually if necessary." On the planet's surface, Thran led the emergency retrieval team to the Etherian structure. As they approached, the ancient building pulsed with an eerie blue light. Inside, they found Dylan and Sarah lying motionless, enveloped in a shimmering energy field. "We can't get a lock on their life signs," one of the team members reported, frantically adjusting his equipment. "The field is interfering with our scanners." Thran stepped forward, his face set with perseverance. "We need to disable that field. Start analyzing its energy signature. Look for any weak points or fluctuations we can exploit." As the team worked to breach the energy barrier, Dylan and Sarah's minds raced through the Etherian archives. Images and concepts flashed before them, advanced propulsion systems, terraforming technologies, and the true purpose behind the Etherians' galactic preservation efforts. Their consciousness expanded, transcending the limitations of their physical forms. Outside the structure, chaos erupted across the Zal Thori cities. The revelation of the manipulative faction's actions, coupled with the visible atmospheric disturbances caused by the Cosmic Voyager's intervention, sent shockwaves through the population. In the streets, citizens gathered in large groups, their voices rising in a cacophony of confusion and demand for answers. In orbit, Captain Krolath faced a critical decision as the Zal Thori spacecraft drew nearer. He turned to his first officer. "Prepare for first contact procedures. We can't risk hostile action due to misunderstanding." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances as Krolath opened a channel to the approaching vessels. "This is Captain Krolath of the starship Cosmic Voyager. We come in peace and wish to explain our presence." Before a response could come, a new alert sounded. Lieutenant Reeves's voice was tense. "Captain, sensors are detecting a massive solar flare. It's heading straight for the planet." Krolath's mind raced, calculating the potential devastation. "How long do we have?" "At current speed, impact in approximately 15 minutes, Reeves replied. In the Etherian structure, Thran's team finally managed to deactivate the energy field surrounding Dylan and Sarah. As they moved to transport the unconscious pair, Dylan and Sarah's eyes snapped open, glowing with residual Etherian energy. "We know what to do," they spoke in unison, their voices resonating with newfound power. Dylan and Sarah moved with fluid synchronicity, their hands dancing over the ancient controls. The structure hummed to life, responding to their touch. "We can create a planetary shield," Sarah explained rapidly, "but we need more power." Dylan's eyes locked with Thran's. "Contact the ship. We need the Cosmic Voyager's energy reserves." Aboard the ship, Krolath received the urgent request. With seconds ticking away, he made his choice. "Divert all non-essential power to the planet. We're going to help them build that shield." As the Cosmic Voyager's energy flowed into the Etherian structure, Dylan and Sarah established a three-way neural link between their minds, the alien technology, and the ship's systems. The resulting surge of power was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Outside, the Zal Thori spacecraft watched in awe as a shimmering barrier began to form around their world. Recognizing the imminent threat and the efforts to save them, they added their own energy to the shield. The solar flare struck just as the shield reached full strength. The sky blazed with coruscating energy as the destructive force was absorbed and dissipated. When the light faded, the planet remained unscathed. In the aftermath, Dylan and Sarah collapsed, their bodies pushed beyond normal human limits. Thran's team rushed to stabilize them as they were finally transported back to the Cosmic Voyager. Captain Krolath stood on the bridge, surveying the changed landscape before him. The Zal Thori ships now held position nearby, no longer hostile, but curious. On the planet below, a civilization grappled with the sudden revelation of advanced alien life and technology. As the medical team worked to save Dylan and Sarah, their minds remained linked, floating in a sea of Etherian knowledge. The full impact of their experience was yet to be understood, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same for the crew of the Cosmic Voyager, or the people of this world they had changed forever. In the medical bay of the Cosmic Voyager, Dylan and Sarah lay motionless, their bodies enveloped in a soft, pulsating glow. Dr. Talar hovered over them, her eyes wide with astonishment as she studied the readouts on her medical tricorder. "Fascinating," she murmured, adjusting the sensors to capture more data. "Their cellular structure is undergoing rapid reconfiguration." Captain Krolath stood at the foot of their beds, his brow furrowed with concern. "Will they survive this transformation?" Dr. Talar nodded, her antennae twitching with excitement. "Not only will they survive, Captain, but they're thriving. The Etherian energy has integrated with their physiology in ways I've never seen before." Days turned into a week as Dylan and Sarah's bodies continued to change. The medical bay hummed with the constant monitoring of their vital signs, each passing hour revealing new developments in their condition. On the seventh day, Dylan's eyes fluttered open. He gasped, his senses overwhelmed by the sudden influx of information. Every surface, every sound, every scent in the room seemed amplified. "Sarah," he called out, his voice hoarse from disuse. "I'm here," came the reply, not in words but as a clear thought in his mind. Dylan turned his head to see Sarah looking back at him from the adjacent bed, her eyes reflecting the same mixture of confusion and wonder he felt. "We can communicate telepathically now." Sarah's thoughts flowed into his mind, accompanied by a wave of emotions: joy, fear, and an overwhelming sense of connection. Dr. Talar approached, her tricorder whirring as she scanned them. "How do you feel?" "Different," Dylan replied, struggling to find the right words. "Everything feels more." As Dylan and Sarah adjusted to their new abilities, Captain Krolath entered the medical bay. His face was a mask of professionalism, but his eyes betrayed a mix of relief and curiosity. "Mr. Dylan, Ms. Sarah," he began, "I'm glad to see you both conscious. There have been developments while you were recovering." Over the next hour, Krolath briefed them on the situation with the Zal Thori. The alien civilization, awed by the Cosmic Voyager's intervention and the power of the Etherian technology, had proposed an exchange of knowledge and culture. "We've agreed to a limited program," Krolath explained, "and given your unique understanding of both human and Etherian technology, you'll be key figures in this exchange." Dylan and Sarah exchanged glances, their newfound mental link humming with shared excitement and apprehension. In the weeks that followed, Dylan and Sarah threw themselves into their new roles. They worked closely with Zal Thori scientists, their enhanced abilities allowing them to bridge the gap between the two civilizations with unprecedented ease. During a demonstration of a prototype energy converter, Sarah's hand brushed against Dylan's. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through them both, their shared sensations amplified by their mental link. "We need to talk." Dylan's thoughts whispered in Sarah's mind. Later, in the privacy of Dylan's quarters, they finally addressed the growing tension between them. "Sarah, I've never felt anything like this before," Dylan said, his voice low and intense. "It's like you're a part of me now." Sarah stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "I know. I feel it too. It's more than just the mental link. It's love," Dylan finished, closing the distance between them. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, their minds merging as their bodies intertwined. The boundaries between them blurred, physical and mental sensations flowing freely between them in a symphony of shared pleasure. As they lay together afterward, their bodies still humming with residual energy, Dylan traced the faint, shimmering lines that now marked Sarah's skin, a physical manifestation of their Etherian-enhanced physiology. "What happens now?" Sarah asked, her thoughts a swirl of contentment and uncertainty. Dylan pulled her closer. "We face whatever comes next, together." In the engineering bay, Thrawn and his team worked tirelessly to integrate the Etherian technology into the ship's systems. The changes were dramatic, with each successful modification pushing the Cosmic Voyager's capabilities beyond what they had ever imagined possible. As the day of departure approached, the crew of the Cosmic Voyager prepared to bid farewell to their Zal Thori allies. The loading bay was filled with crates of shared technology and cultural artifacts, symbols of the friendship forged between the two civilizations. During the farewell ceremony, a Zal Thori elder approached Dylan and Sarah. "Your arrival has changed the course of our history," he said, presenting them with an intricately carved crystal. "May this remind you of the bonds we've formed." With final goodbyes exchanged, the crew returned to their posts. On the bridge, Dylan and Sarah took their positions at the newly configured helm, their minds linking seamlessly with the ship's enhanced systems. Captain Krolath settled into his chair, his voice filled with a mixture of anticipation and dedication. "Mr. Dylan, Ms. Sarah, activate the wormhole drive." Dylan and Sarah's hands moved in perfect synchronization across the control panel. The view screen filled with a swirling vortex of energy as the experimental drive engaged. The Cosmic Voyager plunged into the wormhole, streaks of light and color surrounding them as they traversed vast distances in mere moments. The crew held their breath, the ship vibrating with the strain of faster-than-light travel. Suddenly, they emerged into normal space. Lieutenant Reeves's voice broke the tense silence. "Captain, sensors confirm we're on the outskirts of Federation space." A cheer erupted on the bridge. Dylan and Sarah shared a smile, their hands intertwined as they guided the ship on its final leg home. The incredible journey that had begun with a simple malfunction was nearing its end. But for Dylan and Sarah, a new chapter was just beginning. As Earth grew larger on the monitor, a fleet of Federation ships approached to escort them home. The Cosmic Voyager's long-awaited return was about to become reality, carrying with it a wealth of new knowledge, technology, and the promise of a future where the boundaries between species and space-time itself could be transcended.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.